My name is Jenna Marlowe, and I'm 32 years old. If you drove past my life a year ago, you'd have said something like, she's got it together. Small craftsman bungalow on a quiet street. Hydrangeas that actually bloom every summer because I remember to trim them on schedule. A spreadsheet for everything. Groceries, utilities, savings goals, even the off-peak hours when it's cheapest to run the dishwasher. The house is mine. Deed in my name, mortgage set up before I ever let anyone copy the keys. I paid for the inspections, negotiated the closing, set up the auto pay. It was my safe place long before a man ever slept there. Then Ethan moved in. Ethan Cole, 34, charming in that easy, boyish way that makes servers smile, and neighbors forgive noise complaints. We'd been together 6 years, living together for 4. We weren't married, but if you'd seen us at a distance, shared bills, combined holidays, talk of baby names, you'd assume we were. For the last 8 months, we'd been trying for a baby. I put trying in quotes now. Back then, I didn't. Back then, I circled days on apps and bought ovulation strips. I'd watch his face when I came out of the bathroom with that hopeful look, and he'd laugh and pull me close and say, "Maybe this is our month, Jen." I thought we were building a life. Turns out we were building something else entirely. The Sunday dinner at his parents' place was supposed to be routine. Twice a month, pot roast and too much wine. His dad's passive-aggressive comments about kids these days, and his mom insisting I didn't need to bring anything but myself. Their house is textbook suburban. Beige siding, trimmed hedges, a porch swing that squeaks every time the wind even thinks about moving it. I used to think it was comforting, familiar, the backdrop of a normal life. That night, it felt like a stage I didn't realize I was walking onto. We were all there. Ethan next to me, his hand resting casually on my thigh, his parents across the table, his father carving the roast, his older brother, Ryan, and Ryan's wife, Lily, at the far end. Lily's the chatty one, the one who used to text me memes and gossip about her coworkers. Fun, harmless, or so I thought. By the time dessert came out, Lily was on her 3rd glass of red. "So," Ethan's mom said, in that bright, eager tone she uses when she's about to pry, "how's everything going? Still trying?" I smiled because that's what you do. "Yeah, we're hopeful." Ethan squeezed my leg. "We're doing everything by the book," he said. "You should see Jenna's charts." Everyone laughed. I did too, even though something in his voice felt off, a little too polished, like a rehearsed line he'd said before. "Hey, practice makes perfect," Lily giggled, taking another sip. "Besides, Ethan knows the drill by now." Ethan's head snapped toward her, fast enough to make his fork clink against the plate. "Lily," Ryan said sharply. "What?" She blinked, then grinned at me. "Relax, I didn't mean it like that. I just meant, you know." She fluttered her hand in the air like she could wave away the sentence that almost came out. Silence slid across the table, slow and heavy. I felt it before I understood it. This subtle shift, like a building's foundation creaking. "What drill?" I asked lightly. "Nothing," Ethan said. Too quickly. She's had a lot to drink." I looked at her. Her cheeks were flushed, eyes bright. Drunk enough to be messy, sober enough to be dangerous. "Should we tell her about the abortion?" she blurted. Time stopped. The clink of cutlery, the hum of the fridge, the clock in the kitchen ticking. All of it fell away. I turned my head slowly toward her, feeling my heart beat like it was somewhere outside my body. "Tell me what?" I heard myself ask. My voice sounded wrong, steady when it shouldn't have been. Ethan went white. His mom's hand froze halfway to her wine glass. His dad suddenly became very interested in his mashed potatoes. Ryan shot Lily a look that could have cut glass. Lily's eyes went wide. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Oh my God, I thought she knew." "Knew what?" I repeated. Ethan reached for my hand under the table. I pulled it back before he even made contact. "Baby," he said quietly, "let's talk about this at home." "No," I said. "We'll talk about it now. What abortion?" His mom cleared her throat, panic flickering in her eyes. "Jenna, honey, this is not the place." "This is exactly the place," I said. It came out calm, scarily calm. "Someone just used the word abortion about my life. I would love to know why." No one spoke. You know those moments where you realize retroactively that there were warning signs? Jokes that didn't land right. Glances you couldn't quite interpret. The way Ethan's mom always changed the subject whenever babies came up. They all crashed into me at once. 2 years ago, Ethan finally whispered. The room tilted. "We weren't ready," he swallowed. "You got pregnant and—" "I got pregnant?" My chair scraped back a fraction. You're telling me I was pregnant and I don't know about it? He flinched. You were late. You were stressed. You thought it was just, your cycle being weird. I remember being late, I said slowly. I took a test. It was negative. He looked at his plate. You took one test. I bought another. Did it myself. My skin went cold. You took a pregnancy test for me, I asked. My brain couldn't process the sentence. The words didn't fit together. Well, technically she did, Lily muttered, pointing her glass toward Ethan's mom. Lily, Ryan's voice was a warning. Ethan's mom stared at me, eyes shining. You were so overwhelmed, dear. Ethan was terrified. We thought it would only make you anxious. You thought what? My voice rose a notch. That knowing whether I was pregnant would inconvenience me? Ethan's jaw tightened. You said back then you weren't sure you were ready. We'd just moved in. Work was crazy. I didn't want to dump more stress on you if it was just a scare. So you what? I leaned in. Explain it to me like I'm stupid, because evidently that's what you all decided I was. He swallowed. The test was positive. I panicked. I talked to my mom. She said, we should handle it quietly, just in case. So we made an appointment. She went with you. My blood roared in my ears. I have never been to a clinic with your mother, I said. She told you it was a checkup, he said miserably. You were barely listening. You were exhausted. They did the ultrasound, confirmed it, and it was early, really early. My vision blurred around the edges. I remembered that day. Foggy, yes, because I'd been worn out. I remembered his mom insisting on driving me because parking is a nightmare downtown, and how they'd both insisted I didn't need to stress about the paperwork. I had assumed it was a routine exam. Are you telling me, I said, each word landing like a hammer, that I had an abortion I did not consent to? It wasn't like that, his mom snapped, her voice suddenly sharp. You signed the forms. You nodded. You agreed. You said you were scared and not ready. I didn't know I was pregnant, I said. That's not consent. That's manipulation. Ethan's dad finally spoke, low and tired. We thought what you didn't know wouldn't hurt you. The sentence hung there, toxic and quiet. I stood up. The chair legs scraped against the hardwood so loudly it made everyone flinch. I opened my wallet with numb fingers, pulled out 3 20s, and placed them carefully beside my plate. For my share of dinner, I said. Jenna, wait, Ethan said, pushing his chair back. Please, we needed to talk 2 years ago, I said, still weirdly calm. Right now, I need to think. His mom reached out, fingers grasping at air. Don't be dramatic. We were protecting you. I looked around the table. At Ethan, who had been telling me for 8 months that we were trying. At his mother, who had gone with me to a clinic I didn't understand. At his father, who couldn't meet my eyes. At his brother, who sat in complicit silence. At Lily, who stared down into her wine like she could drown herself in it. All of you, I said quietly, decided I wasn't entitled to the truth about my own body, about my own life. That's not protection. That's cruelty dressed up as concern. No one argued. I walked out. I don't remember the drive to the hotel. 1 minute I was stepping off their porch, cool night air slapping my face. The next, I was sitting on a stiff bedspread under 2 bright lamps, a generic landscape print staring down at me from the wall. My phone buzzed nonstop. Ethan, his mom, even Lily. I flipped it face down on the nightstand. I sat there and thought about every time I'd stared at a negative test in the last 8 months and felt my heart crack a little. I thought about Ethan hugging me, saying, it'll happen when it's meant to, while knowing he had already decided once, without me, that meant to didn't matter. I thought about that day at the clinic, the way everything had felt hazy, how his mom had filled out forms while I signed where she pointed, how I'd gone home, slept for hours, and woke up sore and strangely empty, chalking it up to stress. You ever replay a memory and realize it wasn't what you thought at all? It felt like that, over and over. Finally, when the silence in the room grew too loud, I picked up my phone. I opened the browser and typed, family attorney, betrayed partner, hid abortion cohabiting rights. Because this wasn't just a breakup anymore. This was going to be a legal excavation of every lie they'd buried under the word protection. And I was done being the only one in the dark. The hotel room started to smell like takeout and recycled air after the 3rd day. I kept telling myself I'd only stay 1 night, just long enough to get my head straight, figure out what to say, what to do, how to even form words around the sentence, you had an abortion and didn't let me know I was pregnant. But then morning turned into afternoon, turned into night, and every time I thought about walking back into my own house, our house, in Ethan's mind, I pictured him waiting on the couch, rehearsed apologies on his tongue, and that same phrase in his mother's voice. What she doesn't know won't hurt her. My phone never stopped buzzing. Where are you? Please, Jen, talk to me. We were scared. Don't punish us for one mistake. After the first 48 hours, I stopped reading the previews. I blocked his number, then his mom's, then his dad's. On the third morning, I sat at the tiny hotel desk, opened my laptop, and did what I always do when things feel impossible. I made a list. House in my name, joint accounts none by design, shared bills, utilities, groceries, recurring subscriptions. Timeline of the abortion they tried to frame as mercy. The last one sat blank for a long time. Then I opened my email and typed, family law attorney, near me consultation. His name was Caleb Monroe, and he wore the kind of suits that looked expensive without trying. The receptionist had slid a clipboard toward me with a sympathetic look, and by the time Caleb walked into the little conference room, I'd already written, scratched out, and rewritten the phrase hidden abortion 3 times. He shook my hand firmly. Jenna, I'm Caleb. Tell me what's going on. I started with the clean facts. House purchase pre-relationship, deed and mortgage in my name only, cohabiting partner of 4 years. No marriage license, no kids, no shared accounts. His pen moved smoothly across legal pad paper, eyes flicking up every few beats. Then I tried to explain the dinner. I found out 2 years after the fact, I said, fingers wrapped so tight around the foam coffee cup my knuckles ached, that I was pregnant, and that they took me to a clinic and my throat closed. Abortion still felt like a word with edges. And that they ended it, I forced out, without ever telling me I was pregnant in the first place. Caleb's pen stopped. Let me make sure I understand, he said carefully. You did not know you were pregnant at the time of the procedure. I thought it was just an exam, I said. A checkup. His mom filled out the forms. They both steered me through it. I signed what they put in front of me. I didn't understand what it was. I didn't find out until his sister-in-law got drunk and blurted it out at dinner 2 years later. He leaned back, exhaled slowly. And since that time, your boyfriend has been telling me he wants kids, I said, a bitter laugh slipping out. Telling me we're trying. Letting me cry over negative tests while he knows he once made that decision without me. Caleb's expression shifted from neutral professional to something sharper. Okay, he said. So, legally, you're not married. That simplifies some things. But you've been cohabiting for 4 years and behaving like a marital unit in some ways. He could try to argue financial reliance to get support or a share of implied assets. He's been living in my house, rent-free, I said, heat rising. I pay the mortgage, the utilities, the property taxes. His contribution is, what, streaming passwords? That's helpful, Caleb said. Document everything you can. Bank statements, utility bills, any email where you talk about who pays what. But the larger issue is the deception. I don't want to be with someone who can lie like that, I said. I want him out of my house. Clean break. No going after my assets. And if he decides to make it ugly, I want to be ready. Caleb tapped his pen thoughtfully. In our state, we're technically a no-fault jurisdiction when it comes to divorce, which doesn't apply here because you're not married. But deception can absolutely matter in civil negotiations. It's leverage. Judges and mediators don't like conspiracies of silence built around someone's bodily autonomy. The phrase landed heavy. Conspiracy of silence. Do you have any documentation? He asked. Anything from this clinic visit? Emails? Texts? Not yet, I said slowly. But his mother is the type who prints things and files them. She has a color-coded system. She probably has a binder called Hiding Things from Jenna at this point. Caleb's mouth quirked. Go home when he's not there, he said quietly. Gather what you can. Take photos. Don't remove anything. Send it all to me. If there's a paper trail, we'll find it. Helps to document the betrayal for any settlement discussions. Document the betrayal. I nodded. And Jenna, he added as I stood up, you are not being unreasonable. I've seen people leave for much less than what you've just described. I believed him. Almost. Ethan found the hotel. Of course he did. The front desk called up on the room phone that evening. Ms. Marlowe, there's a gentleman here who says he's your partner. My heart jolted. Tell him I'm not accepting visitors. There was a pause. He seems upset. So am I said. Please don't connect him to my room. 30 seconds later, my cell buzzed from an unknown number. I answered anyway. You're really hiding from me in a hotel? Ethan's voice came through, frayed and angry. Seriously, Jenna. I'm not hiding, I said. I'm processing. You're blowing up our whole life over one mistake 2 years ago. One mistake? I repeated softly. That one mistake stretched itself over 730 days of lying to my face. And then you invited your whole family to participate. It wasn't like that, he said. We were scared. You were stressed. I didn't know how to tell you. My mom was just trying to help. You had 2 years of opportunities to tell me, I said. Every time I cried over another negative test. Every time we talked about baby names. Every time you said, I can't wait to be a dad. You didn't make a mistake. You made a choice. And then you made the same choice again every single day you decided to lie. He went quiet. Are you seriously going to throw away everything we built? He asked eventually, voice trembling, just enough to sound sincere. Ethan has always known how to pitch his emotions like a performance. Over something that happened years ago? It didn't happen years ago, I said. The procedure happened years ago. The lying happened yesterday, and the day before that. And right now, while you're still trying to convince me it's not as bad as it is. He exhaled sharply, like I'd punched him. We can go to counseling. We can work this out. You had 2 years to get honest, I said. You chose silence. I'm choosing something else. I hung up. He called back 3 times. I blocked the number. An hour later, another call came in. Ryan. I let it go to voicemail. Jenna, hey, it's Ryan. Look, I get that you're upset, but this has gone way too far. You're tearing the whole family apart over something that, honestly, Ethan just handled badly. He loves you. My kids are asking where Aunt Jenna is. Do you really want to blow up Christmas over this? I listened to the whole thing once, then again, just to make sure I heard every manipulative note. Then I deleted it. If the roles were reversed, if I had hidden a pregnancy and abortion from Ethan with my mom's help, I knew exactly what Ryan would be telling him. I went back to my house on a Wednesday morning. I knew Ethan's schedule by heart. Early meeting, then on-site client visits. His car wasn't in the driveway when I pulled up. Unlocking my own front door felt strange, like I was breaking into a version of my life I no longer recognized. The smell hit me first. Our detergent, our coffee, his cologne faint in the hallway, a hoodie of his thrown over the back of the couch, a mug he'd left in the sink, ringed in dried coffee. I stood there for a long moment, hand on the back of the couch, trying to remember what it had felt like to love him without flinching. Then I moved. I packed with ruthless efficiency. 1 suitcase for clothes, a box for my work laptop, external hard drive, important documents, a small bag for toiletries, anything deeply sentimental, photos, gifts, the dumb little ceramic fox he'd won me at a carnival, I left in their places. I didn't trust myself not to hesitate if I started weighing memories. The home office was our catch-all space. A cheap desk, a filing cabinet, shelves of mismatched binders. When we moved in, I'd suggested we merge our files. Ethan had insisted on keeping our systems separate and claimed a whole drawer for his own things. I started with that, hanging files labeled in his messy handwriting. Car, work, taxes, health. Tucked toward the back was a folder with his mother's neat block letters instead. Personal E, it read. My stomach tightened. Inside, everything was too orderly to be his. Medical statements, insurance forms, clinic summaries, appointment reminders. I flipped through until a logo jumped out at me, one I didn't recognize but felt like I should. The clinic. There it was in black and white. Date, 2 years ago. Patient, Jenna Marlowe. Procedure description, clinical and cold. My hand started to shake. Behind it, stapled to a printout of an email thread. From Carol Cole to us, Ethan Cole. Subject, Tuesday. We'll take care of it quietly. I'll drive her, you handle the insurance. What she doesn't know won't hurt her. She's too sensitive about these things. I swallowed bile. There were more. Text messages printed out, like someone had been building a physical shrine to their decision. Mom. Book early appointment. Tell her it's just a women's health checkup. She never reads the forms anyway. Ethan. I feel like crap about this. She wants kids someday. Mom. Someday. Not now. You're not ready. Trust me. This is best for both of you. Both of you. I sat down hard on the office chair, the edges of the pages digging into my fingertips. Somewhere upstairs, the heater kicked on with a familiar rumble. I took out my phone and started taking photos. Every page, every message, every date stamp. When I was done, I stacked everything back exactly how I'd found it. Same order, same angle in the folder. The last thing I wanted was for them to know what I'd seen. Not yet. In the living room, I paused on my way out. The framed photo on the shelf, Ethan and me at the lake, his arms slung around my shoulders, sunglasses hiding both our eyes, tilted slightly. I straightened it on reflex, then stopped myself and nudged it crooked again. Let them feel something's off when they walk in, I thought. Back at the hotel, I forwarded all the images to Caleb with a brief note. Found this in his files. His mother printed everything. He called me within an hour. "Jenna," he said, not bothering with hello, "I've gone through the photos. This is significant." "I figured," I said, sitting on the edge of the bed. My voice sounded flat, even to me. "This isn't a panicked, one-off bad decision," he continued. "This is premeditated. They planned the concealment, they coordinated the appointment, and they deliberately excluded you from informed consent. Judges notice this kind of thing. Mediators, too." "So what does that mean?" "It means," Caleb said, "that if Ethan tries to come after your house, your assets, or support, we now have a narrative and corroborating evidence that puts him in a very bad light. This changes things." For the first time in days, I felt something like solid ground under my feet. Not happiness, not relief. Just the sense that if they wanted to drag me into a battle, I wasn't walking in with my hands empty. Ethan escalated fast. The minute he realized I wasn't rushing home to hear him out, his apologies turned into accusations, and the accusations turned into a full-scale pressure campaign. It started the morning after I found the clinic documents. I was in the hotel lobby waiting for my coffee when my phone lit up with a number I recognized but never saved. His mother. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Jenna," she began without preamble, her voice tight with manufactured concern. "We need to talk about what happened. You walking out like that was unfair. You blindsided all of us." "I blindsided you?" I repeated, stunned. "You orchestrated a medical procedure on me without telling me I was pregnant." "That is an exaggeration," she snapped. "You were overwhelmed. You needed guidance." "No," I said, "I needed the truth." Her tone sharpened like a blade. "If you destroy my son over this, you'll regret it. We all will." I hung up, blocked her. 10 minutes later, Ethan's father left a voicemail scolding me for running away like a child. Then came Ryan. Then came Lily, a shaky, remorseful text about too much wine and how she never meant to make things messy. I should have ignored all of it. Instead, I let myself read Ryan's message twice. He's your family. You forgive family. That's how it works. Family. Funny how they all insisted we were family, until honesty was required. Caleb called later that afternoon. "His mother reached out, didn't she?" he said. He didn't even need me to confirm. "Don't respond to any of them. Forward every message. We build a record." "This is getting ugly," I said. "It was ugly 2 years ago," he replied. "You're just now seeing it." I sat with that longer than I expected. Because he was right. The betrayal didn't start at the dinner table. It started the moment they decided honesty was optional. 2 days later, I was heading into work when a familiar voice called out from across the parking lot. "Jenna!" I froze. Ethan's father strode toward me, jaw tight, posture tense. Great. I stepped back automatically, shoulders stiffening. "Mr. Cole." "You're really going through with this?" he demanded. "You're going to destroy my son because you're too angry to see reason?" I stared at him. "Reason? You all hid a pregnancy from me. You hid an abortion from me. You let me live in ignorance for 2 years while I cried over negative tests." He waved that off like it was nothing. "Ethan made a mistake." "Mistakes last a moment," I said. "This lasted 730 days. He loves you," he insisted. "You have a good life together. Are you really willing to throw away everything over this?" I looked him straight in the eyes. He threw it away the minute he decided I didn't deserve the truth. He opened his mouth to argue again, but I walked past him. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I didn't explain myself. I was done explaining anything to people who had lied straight to my face for years. That night, Caleb emailed me. "We need to subpoena his therapy records." I blinked at the screen. "What therapy?" I murmured. Then I remembered the insurance statements. The nondescript counseling services line items he'd told me were for work stress. He had therapy bills from 6 months after the abortion. I'd paid them without question. "Why?" I asked Caleb on the phone. "Because if he talked about the abortion, about the deception, those notes can prove he understood the harm and continued lying knowingly. That matters." "Can we even get those records?" I asked. "Aren't they protected?" "Normally, yes," he said. "But this isn't a divorce. This is a civil dispute tied directly to the events he discussed in therapy. We can argue relevance." Ethan's lawyer fought it, hard. But the judge ruled partially in our favor. Limited disclosure. Only notes directly relating to the incident and the deception. A week later, Caleb called. "Jenna," he said quietly, "you need to sit down." I sat at the edge of the hotel bed. He inhaled deeply. His therapist repeatedly told him to come clean. Multiple sessions documenting guilt, anxiety, fear of being exposed, an acknowledgement that hiding this from you was damaging your relationship. Notes showing he was consciously choosing silence. Not panic, not confusion. Choice. A sick heat crawled across my chest. "So he knew," I whispered. "Every session," Caleb said. He said things like, "If she finds out, she'll leave me." Or, "My mom said she'll never need to know." Or, "I know I should tell her, but I don't want to lose her. It's all documented." My breath hitched. I hadn't realized how much some part of me hoped, just a tiny, pathetic part, that maybe he really had been overwhelmed, or panicked, or trapped. But reading guilt is one thing. Seeing it written in a therapist's notes? That's clarity. "We can use this," Caleb said. "This strengthens your position significantly." Position. It felt strange to think of this like a negotiation instead of a heartbreak. But that's what it had become. A negotiation over the life I built. My house, my savings, my future. All things Ethan might try to take as some twisted consolation prize for being caught. I ended the call feeling hollow. Not because it hurt, but because it confirmed something that had been quietly forming in the back of my mind. The man I loved didn't just betray me. He sustained that betrayal like a second job. Every day, every hour, every time I looked at him and saw someone I thought I knew. I was brushing my teeth that night when someone knocked on my hotel door. Hard. 3 quick hits. Then again. My pulse kicked. I pulled the chain lock tight and cracked the door 2 inches. Ryan stood there looking furious. "Of course. Open the door, Jenna." "No." He pushed a hand against the door like he could wedge it open. "We need to talk." "We don't," I said. "You've taken this too far," he hissed. "My brother is falling apart. My parents are stressed out of their minds. Lily feels horrible. And for what? Something that happened years ago?" I stared at him through the crack. "You're asking the wrong question," I said. "You should be asking why Ethan lied for years. Why you all lied. Why none of you cared about what this would do to me." "He was scared," Ryan snapped. "He was selfish." "This is marriage, Jenna. We're not married." "Same thing." "No," I said clearly. "Marriage requires honesty. You don't get to redefine the word because it suits your family." He glared. "You're tearing everyone apart." "No," I said softly. "I'm just refusing to let you stitch me back into the lie." He stared at me, stunned. Then he stepped back. "Fine," he muttered. "Do whatever you want. But don't expect anyone to forgive you when this all blows up in your face." I shut the door, locked it, leaned my forehead against the wood. And for the first time since the dinner table, my hands stopped shaking. Because it finally clicked. They weren't trying to make things right. They were trying to make me quiet. The next morning, Caleb sent another message. "Mediation scheduled. Prepare for them to come after the house. We're ready." And I realized something else. I wasn't scared anymore. I wasn't confused. I wasn't even angry in the same sharp, burning way. What I felt now was colder, cleaner, sharper. Resolve. The kind you only get when every illusion has finally shattered and all that's left is the truth. Mediation day arrived, dressed like a funeral. Gray sky, damp air, a kind of quiet that feels like a warning. I showed up 15 minutes early, wearing the plain black blazer I used to save for job interviews and performance reviews, moments where clarity mattered more than comfort. Caleb met me in the lobby with a folder under his arm and a steadying hand lightly touching my shoulder. "You ready?" he asked. I nodded. I've been ready since the moment they said, "What she doesn't know won't hurt her." He gave a single approving nod. We walked into a neutral, beige conference room with one wall of windows overlooking an empty parking lot. Ethan was already inside, sitting with his lawyer, a thin, sharp-eyed woman named Amanda, who sized me up the second I entered. Ethan looked smaller, not physically, but something about him seemed deflated, like the scaffolding that held up his confidence had finally been kicked out from beneath him. He gave me a look, a mixture of desperation, hope, and accusation. I sat across from him, not beside him, not near him, across. The mediator entered moments later, a woman in her 60s with silver hair, round glasses, and the kind of presence that instantly commanded the room. "My name is Marion," she said warmly. "I'll be guiding you both through today's process. I know this is emotional. I ask that we focus on clarity and fairness." She opened her notebook. "Let's begin." Amanda spoke first. She launched into a carefully crafted narrative about a loving couple, one miscommunication, and how my abrupt reaction had escalated things unnecessarily. She mentioned Ethan's mental health, his fear, his guilt, and how the abortion experience was traumatic for both parties. I felt Caleb stiffen beside me. For the record, Amanda added, my client is seeking reasonable compensation for his contributions to the household and the relationship, financially and emotionally. I almost laughed. Emotionally? A man who lied for 2 years and told me we were trying? Caleb didn't give the absurdity a chance to settle. He slid a stack of papers onto the table. Let's review the actual facts, he said calmly. He laid out the timeline, the medical records, the emails, the printed messages between Ethan and his mother, the appointment confirmations, the therapy notes documenting his ongoing deception. The more he spoke, the more quiet the room became. Ethan didn't look at me, or maybe he couldn't. Finally, the mediator put her pen down. Mr. Cole, she said gently, I need you to answer a few questions. Ethan swallowed hard. Okay. Did you know Jenna wanted children 2 years ago? Yes. Did you discuss the pregnancy with her before making the appointment? No. Did you tell her afterward? No. Did you tell her at any point in the 2 years that followed? No. She paused. Why not? His voice cracked slightly. I was scared. I thought she'd leave me. She believed she was trying for a baby during those years, Marion said. Did you correct that assumption? No, he whispered. The mediator leaned forward slightly. Mr. Cole, fear is understandable, but fear does not justify deception, especially not deception that involves someone's body and long-term plans. Ethan's lawyer cut in quickly. This is being framed unfairly. We're talking about a single moment of panic. Caleb responded before she could finish. It was not a single moment, he said, firm but measured. It was a sustained lie. A lie reinforced daily, with the support of his parents. A lie that shaped Jenna's decisions about her future, her health, and her family planning. And we have documentation proving Ethan understood the gravity of what he was doing. The mediator nodded. I've seen many marital and cohabitation disputes, she said. Infidelity, financial betrayal, secrets. What troubles me here is not the decision itself. Women and couples make difficult reproductive choices every day. What troubles me is the intentional concealment, for years. Ethan looked up then, eyes shining with something like panic. Jenna, he said softly, please, I'm sorry. Really, I was scared. I didn't know how to tell you. If I could go back. You had that chance, I said, meeting his eyes for the first time. 2 years ago, and every day since. His face fell. The mediator cleared her throat. Ms. Marlowe, she said gently, do you want this relationship to continue? No. Is there anything that could change your mind? No. The mediator nodded once. Then she turned to Ethan and his lawyer. You need to adjust your expectations, she said bluntly. If this goes to a judge, the documented deception will not work in your favor. This is an opportunity to reach a fair resolution. Amanda opened her mouth to argue, but Marion's expression shut her down. The negotiation was long. Hours of back and forth. Ethan's lawyer demanded half the house value, a portion of my retirement, spousal-style support for lost opportunities, compensation for emotional distress. Caleb countered each point with proof. Ethan never paid a single mortgage payment, records showing I covered nearly all expenses, documentation that we were not married. The entire paper trail of deception, therapy notes showing Ethan knew the emotional damage he was inflicting. At one point, Amanda tried again to push the mental health struggle angle. The mediator held up a hand. Mr. Cole's mental health challenges may explain his guilt, she said, but they do not negate Ms. Marlowe's right to full transparency about her own body. By late afternoon, the fight drained out of Ethan's lawyer. She leaned in to whisper something to him. He sagged back in his chair, defeated. We'll accept the terms, she said. My terms. I keep the house. I keep my retirement. I keep my car. He keeps his car. I pay off the remaining lease, $8,000, and transfer title. He takes his personal belongings. He gets a one-time settlement of $15,000 for jointly purchased furniture. No ongoing support, financial or otherwise. Each person pays their own legal fees. It was clean, fair, and entirely his lawyer's best-case scenario, given the alternative. The paperwork was drawn up. We signed. When we were finished, Ethan's lawyer asked softly, would you like to speak privately before leaving? Ethan looked at me with hope flickering in his eyes. No, I said. I packed my things, walked out, and chose the opposite exit from him. Caleb drove me back to the hotel. You did well today, he said. I didn't feel anything, I said honestly. I thought it would hurt more. He gave me a small, knowing smile. Sometimes clarity burns out the pain. Maybe he was right. When I walked into the hotel room, the quiet felt different. Less like exile, more like a beginning. The hotel room felt quieter than usual that evening, the kind of quiet that settles after a storm, when the world is still rearranging itself around the wreckage. I set my mediation folder on the desk, kicked off my shoes, and just breathed. It was over. Legally, structurally, strategically, every thread that tied me to Ethan had been cut. All that was left now was the waiting period before the agreement became official. I ordered takeout, curled onto the bed with a carton of rice I wasn't really hungry for, and tried to feel something besides the numb, strange relief sitting like a stone in my chest. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I ignored it. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Another number, then another, and another. I flipped the phone over. Ethan's mother. You destroyed my son. Hope you're proud. Blocked. His father. After everything we did for you, you repay us like this? Blocked. Lily, I'm so sorry. I never meant blocked. Ryan. This is sick, Jenna. You need help. Blocked. They came in waves. Guilt, anger, pity, bargaining. Each message from a different number, like they were tag-teaming emotional manipulation. Finally, the buzzing stopped. For a few minutes, anyway. Around 9, my phone rang again. Another unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But something, intuition, annoyance, the desire to be completely done, made me swipe. Hello? A breath. Then a shaky voice. Jen? Ethan. He sounded drunk, or crying, or both. You're really leaving me? He whispered. Yes. A long, painful pause. I love you, he said, voice cracking. You know that, right? You know that? You don't lie to someone you love for 2 years, I said quietly. You don't let them cry over fertility tests while you're holding on to a secret like that. It was a mistake, he choked out. You made a choice, I corrected. Every day for 2 years, you chose silence. I was scared, he said. I didn't want to lose you. And now you did. A sob slipped through the line. Then he said it. The sentence he must have rehearsed like a final Hail Mary. I'm pregnant. My stomach dropped out from under me. What? I asked sharply. His breath hitched. I'm pregnant, Jenna. I closed my eyes. Not because I believed him, not even for a second, but because I realized immediately what this was. The final manipulation. The last lever he could pull. The only card he had left. He clarified before I could speak. I mean, you're pregnant, he said. You're pregnant. I found the test. You took one last week. It was positive. I was going to tell you at dinner, but then everything blew up and I cut him off. Ethan, I said, voice steady, stop. I'm serious, he insisted, desperate now. We're having a baby, Jenna, a real baby this time. Please come home. We can fix this. We can... Stop, I repeated. Silence sprawled thick and ugly between us. Even if that were true, I said slowly, and I did not believe it was, it changes nothing. Nothing, he echoed, stunned. You'd walk away from your family? You are not my family, I said. You stopped being that the moment you decided I didn't deserve the truth. A sharp inhale from him, a wounded sound. That's not fair, he whispered. What's not fair, I said, is using pregnancy as leverage. Twice. It's not like that. It is like that. You know it. And you're lying again, even now, when everything's already over. His breathing turned shaky, frantic. Jenna, please, please, I'm begging you. I'll change. I'll go to therapy twice a week. I'll tell you every thought I have. I'll do anything. Don't throw us away. I didn't throw anything away, I said quietly. You did, 2 years ago. He cried harder then, raw and messy and loud enough that I had to pull the phone slightly away from my ear. I let him talk for another full minute. Promises. Desperation. Declarations of love that should have been spoken years earlier, when honesty still had a chance to matter. And then, goodbye, Ethan, I said. No, wait, Jen, don't hang up. Please, please don't. I ended the call, blocked the number, set the phone face down on the bed, and sat there in the dim hotel light, chest rising and falling, feeling the last string snap. The next morning felt different. Calm, clear. I toured an apartment near my office, a one-bedroom with sunlight in the mornings and hardwood floors that creaked just enough to feel lived in. I signed a lease starting next month. A fresh start. A space with no ghosts, no lies tucked inside filing cabinets, no memories of someone whispering, maybe this is our month, while knowing exactly why it wasn't. Later, I called my parents. They'd sensed something was wrong for weeks. I told them everything. My mom cried. My dad swore under his breath. Then he said, voice steady and sure, "You did the right thing. Trust is everything." That night, I called my best friend. She didn't even let me finish the first sentence before saying, "I'm coming over with wine." I told her the hotel wasn't exactly wine glass friendly. She laughed. "We'll drink out of paper cups." For the first time in a long time, I smiled. The divorce-style settlement would finalize in 60 days. 2 months. 60 days to sign away the last remnants of a relationship I once thought would last a lifetime. But surprisingly, I wasn't broken. I wasn't even angry anymore. Anger burns out eventually. Clarity doesn't. What I had now was the unmistakable understanding that I wasn't wrong. I wasn't cruel. I wasn't overreacting. I was choosing myself after being lied to, gaslit, and manipulated for years. And that choice didn't make me the villain. It made me free. I went to sleep in that hotel room that night, not thinking about Ethan, or his mother, or the lost years. I thought about my new apartment, my blank walls, my quiet mornings, my future, mine alone. And for the first time since everything fell apart at that dinner table, the future felt exactly the way truth should feel. Bright, wide open, and entirely, undeniably mine.